first part, what's the purpose of reflecting? Why bother? Well, the most important tool we have, the most important asset that we have is ourselves and self knowledge. In order for us to truly know ourselves, in order for us to understand what we're about, we need to reflect on who we are, why we are, how we are, what makes us do the things that we do or not. So, in reflecting on, in this particular case, the goal that we had in mind, the goal that we were trying to reach, and we're not able to do it yet, and I say yet, uh, it's going to give us insight into what went wrong and why, and provide us with the data that we need to go forward and do it differently and with better results. So, reflecting gives us the space that we need to grow. It helps us to increase our capacity to respond to things, to anticipate what is going to be, and to be able to self regulate. So, the more that we know, the more information we have about ourselves, about how we show up, the greater our ability to make sure we have what we need to be our best selves. So, having said all of that, let's start with our goal and what happened with not achieving this goal. Reflect on exactly how your life got changed or impacted by your not achieving this goal. The importance of getting it out of our heads and onto our paper, or if you're doing it on your phone or whatever tool you're using, is that it takes us outside of our head and we're able to see it. And a lot of times when we keep things in our heads, they just get larger than life. So it could very well be that the impact that we're thinking this has had and what it really means in our life, it's not as big a deal as we're making it out to be. Not that it's not important, not that it doesn't matter, but you want to make sure you're looking at it truly from a place of much of an objective stance that you can take as possible. Did this do as much damage as I'm thinking it did? If it did, what exactly was that damage? Who are the people that are impacted by this? How am I impacted by this? So if you're getting a clear picture of what it is, then that's the first step in knowing, okay, this is the damage assessment, and here's what I'm going to need to do in order to repair or to pivot or to use this to get me to the next place. So the first thing that you're doing, truly assessing the impact of not having achieved that goal. And I say yet because it may be something that you're going to try again. The second reflection is, what are the resources that you had on hand? Did you have the tools, the people that you needed in order to make this happen? The resources that we have available to us will directly correlate to how well we're able to achieve the goals that we want. So it's imperative that whatever we're going to be doing, we make sure we've got what we need. And in thinking about this even before the get-go, it helps us to make sure they're in place. So in looking at the goal that you were not able to achieve, what were the tools, the resources, the people that you had on hand that you needed to help you make that happen? Did you need something or someone that you did not have, or that they didn't show up for you in a way that you thought they were going to, or you didn't get access to the particular tools that you needed? What was happening there? So that's one other area that you're going to reflect on and make sure you're getting the data that you need to understand the role that that played in your not being able to achieve the goal that you had set out to at this point. The next thing that we're going to be looking at, number 3, is the external obstacles, challenges, limitations. What are the things that came up that for the most part were out of your control? Didn't see it coming, or even if you knew it was there, you were limited with what you could do in response. So, for example, COVID, external. outside of your control. It's something that you're just going to have to deal with and manage in the best way that you can. But it's not something that you could control to say, I don't want it, or this is how I want it to go. So, what are the external challenges, limitations, obstacles, factors that came to bear that impacted the result of your reaching your goal, or in this case, not being able to? Then I want you to do the same thing, number 4, with looking at your internal obstacles, limitations, and challenges. What were the internal things that contributed to your not being able to achieve your goal? Are there habits that you have in place that, really took its toll? Were you procrastinating and didn't have enough time to do some of the prep work that you needed for something? Were you procrastinating and then showed up late, or weren't able to put your best foot forward? Because if only you had a bit more time, you would have been able to do that. Are there issues around patience, not having enough patience to do research in a particular area, or in the particular response that you gave? What are the internal pieces, just parts of character or your way of doing things, that really made a difference in this particular case in your not being able to achieve the goal that you had set out to achieve? And in doing this, as with all of our reflections, we're going to be naked. We're going to be very honest, making sure that we're not cheating ourselves. We need to be able to give honest answers, not kind of editing out and putting forward what it is that we ideally would like, but say, no, this is where I went wrong with this. Here's how I could have shown that better. Here's how my habit of doing this particular thing, or not doing this well enough, really impacted me in this case. So we're going to be looking at how you showed up with your internal attributes. What were those things? Number 5, we want to look at the ripple effect of your not achieving this goal. Like, if there's any. Who does it impact? What does it impact, and how? And having this information, being able to reflect on it, can help you to not exaggerate the impact of what has happened. So there are times you think, oh my gosh, because I didn't achieve this, then this and this and this. But when you put it in front of you and you really do look at it, you realize, no, not really. It's not as bad as I thought it was. Or in looking at it, you may have missed an impact or a part of the ripple effect, something that was not on your radar that actually needs to be there. So we want to make sure we're looking at the result of this, my not being able to achieve this at this time in the way that I had hoped. Who does it impact? What does it impact? To what degree? And how? That way we can decide, okay, how am I going to respond to that? The next part of this, number 6, very, very important. How did you respond in each of these areas? How did you show up? Were you losing it? Were you yelling at people? What was your self-talk? Were you mad at yourself? Were you able to course correct when things weren't going quite the way that you anticipated? Were you able to use what we call our wise mind in order to make decisions as you were going along? So when we come up against obstacles, there are times we might freeze, right? Just, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what to do. There are other times we might fight. It's like, okay, no, I'm in this, right? I'm going to fight because I want it to go this way. And there are other times when we'll just take flight. It's like, forget this, can't deal with this, not dealing with this, not right now. I would like you to go through and just look at each area. How did you respond? How did you respond in terms of the resources that you had or did not have that you needed? How were you responding to external things that came up that were out of your control? And how were you responding to the internal limitations or challenges that you were facing? What was your self-talk? What was your conversation, or what were your conversations with others? Did your response help you Did it help the situation? Did it help others around you? Or did it exacerbate things that weren't going so well? Did it make them worse than they needed to be? So this is you saying, okay, here's how I showed up. So taking the time out in each of those areas to really look at what is my behavior, what did I do, and having an understanding as to why did I do that? What was that about? So the response matters a great deal because in life things happen. What's going to make the difference is how we respond to the things that are happening. And so this is where the self-knowledge comes in, which is why you're doing the reflection in the first place, to have an understanding as to how you're showing up in life, how you're showing up in your life for things that happen to you, with you, for you. Once you've done all of that, we're going to then take that information and decide what next. So you're in a place where you're going to be making an informed decision. You're in a place where you can do what is truly best. So here are the facts as I've reflected on them. I have written them down. I can look at them. What is my next best move? What are my next best moves? Am I pivoting? Am I going to do something completely different? Or am I regrouping and saying, okay, I've learned the lessons from this, so here's how I'm going to apply that knowledge going forward. So to recap, we're going to be reflecting on the goal that was not achieved. We're going to be looking at what this truly means in your life. Not having this goal achieved, how does it show up in your day-to-day life? What is the impact that it has had? What are the resources that you had in trying to achieve your goal? Did you have enough? Did you leave something untapped? Was there a place or a person or a thing that you could have gone to that you did not? What were the external obstacles, limitations, and challenges that you faced? What were the internal limitation, obstacles, and challenges that you faced? And what was your response in all of these? How did you show up? Are there areas that you think, okay, I definitely need to work on that? Could have been better, could have not done this, or could have done more of that? Looking at that information, what can you do with that going forward? And then the next steps. So those are the 6 areas to reflect on the goal that you were not able to achieve and to get the lessons from them so that going forward, you can apply that knowledge of self and of environment and things around you to predict what's going to be happening as best as you can, and also just how to respond instead of reacting to the things that are going on in your life so that the likelihood of your achieving your goals will be greatly increased. So until next time, stay elevated and live in your excellence. Bye for now.